Operation Epic Fury.
The Democrats said it was a joke. They laughed at President Trump when he created the Space Force. They mocked him, ridiculed him, called it silly and useless. Well, guess what? Those same Space Force guardians are right now operating on the invisible front line against Iran, detecting missiles the second they launch and coordinating devastating strikes that have left the Iranian regime blind, deaf, and desperate. The technology they said that we didn't need, it's saving American lives today in Operation Epic Fury. So who's laughing now? Because I can tell you, it's not the Mullahs in Tehran watching their military infrastructure get systematically dismantled from orbit. Now, here's why this matters to you and your family, because we live in a world where our enemies have become increasingly sophisticated. China, Russia, Iran, they've all been racing to dominate space because they know whoever controls the high ground controls the battlefield. And for years, under the previous Biden administration, our military readiness was questioned, our deterrence was weakened. But President Trump saw this coming back in his first term. He created the Space Force because he understood that the next war wouldn't just be fought on land or sea and air, it would be won or lost in space. And now those same space-based infrared systems are detecting Iranian missile launches instantly, giving our troops and our allies precious seconds to take cover, to intercept, to survive. This isn't science fiction, folks. This is happening right now. American Guardians are tracking threats from 22,000 miles up. And they're feeding the intelligence directly to our warfighters, your sons, your daughters, your neighbors serving overseas. They're safer today because President Trump had the vision and the courage to build this force while everybody else was laughing. And speaking of national security and American independence, there's a developing story out of Washington that connects directly to everything that we are discussing. A developing story, one the legacy media does not want you to see. As Iran destabilizes the Middle East, the federal government just made a move that could reshape America's security posture forever. Now here's the truth. Our nuclear subs, our warheads, our next-gen power grid, all of it depends on uranium, and we import almost every single pound of it. This is not about energy independence. This is about survival, because a nation that can't power its own military does not control its own destiny. That's why smart investors are looking at domestic uranium production, and one company is positioned to benefit. It's named Atomic Minerals, trading as ATMMF in the United States and ATOM in Canada. As America prioritizes securing critical mineral supply chains, companies with domestic uranium assets could see some serious attention. Now, do your own research. There's a link to a full briefing down below. But understand this. The uranium conversation is no longer optional. Now let's get back to the Space Force and what they're doing right now to protect American interests, because this is what the media is not telling you about Operation Epic Fury. It's not just about missile detection. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs just revealed that coordinated space and cyber operations have effectively blinded the Iranian military. They can't see, they can't coordinate, and they cannot respond effectively. We're talking about laser systems on Navy destroyers that can knock drones out of the sky. We're talking about electronic warfare aircraft jamming Iranian communications. At the center of it all, the Space Force that the Democrats tried to kill before it was even born, because, of course, you know, they love abortion, right? Now, take a look at this. Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan Kane explaining this week the critical role of Space Force guardians. Okay, let me get the audio back for you guys. One moment. We'll get that connected. As Space Force tears up the Iranian battlefield, we are getting the information directly to you when the mainstream media refuses to present it. So here it is again.
Coordinated space and cyber operations effectively disrupted. Coordinated space and cyber operations effectively disrupted communications and sensor networks across the area of responsibility, leaving the adversary without the ability to see, coordinate, or respond effectively.
A simple message from the United States Space Force. They're bragging about their role in Operation Epic Fury, but what exactly are these invisible front lines that we're learning about? Space Force Guardians are honing their skills in readiness, producing exercises like Flashpoint, Resolute Space, Space Flag. Training for combat is the key. Here's more from the VSCO General Ratton's remarks during the Senate Committee on Armed Services. Listen.
Our priority is clear. We must protect the joint force from space-enabled attack. To do this, Space Force Guardians have participated in a variety of readiness-producing activities designed to ensure space superiority. Exercises like Flashpoint, Resolute Space, and Space Flag have been particularly helpful in generating readiness. As my colleagues here know and joint doctrine will attest, training is an essential component of readiness, and the Space Force is organizing to ensure we train our forces for combat.
Another message from the United States Space Force. Training is one thing, but the real question is what cutting-edge technology are they actually deploying? They are passive infrared detection systems that sense the intense heat infrared radiation emitting by a missile's rocket exhaust plume the moment it ignites during launch. The technology allows for near-instant detection of missile launches anywhere on Earth. Key system, space-based infrared system. Primary operational system here, infrared, operated by the U.S. Space Force. It uses constellations of satellites in geosynchronous Earth orbit, about 22,000 miles up, highly elliptical orbit. Satellites can carry advanced infrared sensors that detect shortwave and midwave infrared signals from missile boosts. They scan the globe continuously. Holy cow. 24/7 coverage, spotting the heat signature the second they launch during the boost phase when the rocket engine is burning its hottest. Next generation overhead persistent infrared. I mean, the technology that's being deployed here is absolutely amazing. Now, the tech expert breaking down the infrared detection systems that can spot missile launches the instant they happen anywhere on Earth. Now, never forget this, though. Democrats and rhinos voted against Space Force. The plan to take out Iran has been planned for quite some time, so pay attention to who actively worked against the boss in his efforts to eradicate the problem that has been the Iranian regime. Here's the president.
Well, I'm the creator of Space Force. This was before I knew Elon, but I thought it was very important. It turned out to be very important. We were getting killed by Russia and by China, and now we're leading, really leading big in space. And I think from a defensive standpoint, that's true. No, there's a lot of interest in going to Mars. Is it number one on my hit list? No, it's not really. But it is something that would be, it would be a great achievement. It would be a great thing if we could do it.
And this is where the political hypocrisy gets exposed. The same Democrats who mocked Trump's Space Force are now watching it dominate Iran. President Trump's Space Force now surging, using heat-synced infrared beams to detect missiles the second they launch. The same Space Force Democrats opposed Trump establishing his first term because they thought it was silly or useless.
Space Force was a joke.
No one asks how we're going to pay for this Space Force.
There's no threat in space. Who are we fighting? Satellites?
When Trump talks about Space Force, he makes it sound like we're going to be on a rocket riding to the moon, like Space Force, riding up there and killing aliens.
Joke's on them. Space Force is a critical mission right now. They deployed heat-seeking infrared beams that detect missiles the second they launch so that our guys can take shelter when the rockets get neutralized. Space Force is working on U.S. soil, so they're out of harm's way. Thank God. Operation...
Yeah. Who's laughing now, right? But missile detection is only the beginning. Trump's military also unleashing some seriously advanced weaponry. It sounds like science fiction. U.S. military is prepared to use optical dazzling interdictor Navy lasers against Iran, equipped on at least 2 destroyers. U.S. is actively using precision laser-guided rockets to shoot down Iranian drones from the air, ground, or sea. Yes, it is freaking badass. Check this out.
U.S. destroyer. There are at least 2 destroyers deployed in Operation Epic Fury that are equipped with the Odin. It's a new laser seen here a few days ago. Odin blinds drone sensors, causing them to crash. It's a last-ditch weapon used to defend ships from drone attacks. We're told it has not been used yet in Epic Fury. Now, the U.S. has deployed the EA-18G Growler to jam electronic signals, causing dozens of Iranian drones to fall out of the sky, and is using advanced precision laser-guided rockets to shoot down drones from the air, ground, or sea. The U.S. and Israel do continue their offensive strikes against drone storage depots and launchers. CENTCOM released this video showing it destroying an Iranian drone carrier, roughly the size of a World War II aircraft carrier. This multi-layered strategy counters Iran, which seemingly is trying to flood the zone with these cheap $35,000 Shahed drones until the Gulf states run out of expensive counter-drone munitions like the $4 million Patriot missiles. Ukraine is also helping to fight Iran's drones. This is an ad for the Sting. It's a Ukrainian drone interceptor, a quadcopter that hunts and takes down Iranian drones. Ukraine and the UK have also developed an AI-powered interceptor called the Octopus, which has reportedly been discussed by the Gulf states in this war. Ukraine is an expert at drone fighting, dealing with swarms of Iranian drones fired by the Russians.
So I'd say 4 to 5 days a week, there's a very large strike of anywhere around 250 to 350, maybe a max of 400 drones in a day. So they're seeing what we're seeing, our worst days that we had, 2 or 3 days ago. They see that 3 to 4 days a week, every week for, say, 2 years.
These Ukrainian drone interceptors cost about $3,000 each. That is nothing and could be a game changer in this war. Dana?
All right, keep us posted on all of that. Very fascinating to watch. Thank you, Brian.
Of course.
Fascinating indeed. The laser system's already in action, and now Trump is making it crystal clear what the endgame looks like for Iran. The White House putting out this statement from the president's Truth Social account just a few hours ago. There will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. Iran will have a great future. Make Iran great again. President Donald J. Trump. Unconditional surrender. That is the word of the day. So let me tell you what this really means. President Trump didn't just create another military branch. He fundamentally changed how America fights and wins wars. While the establishment laughed and the media mocked, while Democrats called it a vanity project, Donald Trump was building the architecture for 21st century dominance. And now Iran is learning the hard way that you do not mess with the United States of America. Their drone carriers are being destroyed. Their missile systems are being tracked from space before they even reach their targets. Their communications are being jammed into oblivion. The president's message is crystal clear. Unconditional surrender. No deals, no negotiations, just victory. This is what American strength looks like when you have a commander-in-chief who actually believes in winning. So, folks, we are witnessing history. The Space Force that was ridiculed is now leading the charge in one of the most sophisticated military operations of our lifetime. President Trump's vision is being validated every single day as our guardians protect American lives from orbit. This is what happens when you elect a leader who thinks big, who refuses to back down, and who puts America first. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think the Democrats who oppose the Space Force owe President Trump an apology now? Drop a yes or no in the comments. And while you're at it, make sure you share this video with every patriot that you know, because the mainstream media will never give you this side of the story. And don't forget to check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. Show the world where you stand. I'm Gary Franchi. You've been watching the Next News Network. Stay informed and stay free.
The system controls information. Information control is power. I want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.